order the regular council meeting of July 13th, 2020. Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Campbell. Mr. Sensi.
Here.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Here.
Ms. Gibbons.
Here.
Mr. Hannon.
Present.
Mr. Harrison.
Present.
Mr. McLean.
Here.
Mr. Mowry.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Present. All 8 members are present. At this time, I would like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, chair announcements. We had a chair announcement, an executive session of council conducted prior to coming into the floor on July 13th, 2020 for personnel and legal issues. At this time, I would like to return to the reports of the officials in the library director's report.
Okay, good evening. My name's Christine. I'm the director of your public library, where we provide opportunities to explore, learn, create, and connect. Happy to announce that the library opened to the public on June 15th. Prior to that, we were doing curbside pickup. We do have limited hours. We're there Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. Friday and Saturday, 10 until 2. We are closed on Sundays in the summer regardless. We do have limited capacity, so we're asking you to please come in, conduct your business, and then leave to allow others to use our services as well. Computer use is limited to 1 hour per day. Curbside pickup is still available during operating hours. You can call the library to request your items, or you can visit our website. We have an item request form that you can email to us, and then we'll give you a call when your items are pulled and ready to pick up. Bethel Park is the only library out of the 12 in the South Hills that is currently open for in-person services. Most, if not all of the others, are doing curbside only. We are very busy with an average of 384 items checked out per day, which is on par with the number of checked out items per day when I look back at July of 2019, when we were open an additional 24 hours a week. Just a reminder that masks are required to be worn while in the municipal building, including in the library. Good news is you may now place requests for items at any library throughout Allegheny County. That began today. Prior to that, you could only get items that we had in our collection. Virtual programs are continued to be offered through Facebook, BPTV, and on YouTube. We are planning in-person programs and classes for the fall, but we do have a backup virtual plan as well. Our current limited operating hours will continue through Labor Day weekend. Summer reading for youth and adults is in full swing. Adult summer reading runs through August 30th, so you can submit an entry either in person or online for each book read or listened to, no newspapers or magazines, and all the entries for that week go into a drawing for a $25 gift card, and all entries received by August 30th will be eligible for a dash camera grand prize. Youth summer reading runs through August. We have 3 age groups. We have birth through preschool, kindergarten through 6th grade, and teens that are 7th through 12th grade. All of our classes for summer reading are virtual, so you can visit the library's website for more information. One event that we're going to continue to do in person is Story Times in the Park. This will be Tuesday, August 4th through the 18th at 9:30 a.m. Come read and play with us while we explore and discover some of our community's finest parks. Don't forget to bring a blanket and some sunscreen, and we will be practicing social distancing at these events, so stay with your family. Story Time in the Park is for children ages 2 through 6 years old with their caregiver. No registration is necessary. You can just show up. So August 4th will be at Simmons Park, August 11th at Elm Park, and the 18th at Miners Park. Follow the library on Facebook and check our website for updates. We will be here unless or until local, county, or state officials tell us otherwise. So thank you, everyone, for coming, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much. Can we turn to the police chief's report? And Chief O'Connor.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Hi, everybody. Chief here. First, I want to thank everyone who has sent to the department items and cards of support for the officers throughout this crisis. You know, the officers cannot work from home. They have to be out. We deal with people in crisis, and some of the things they've had to do throughout this C-19 crisis is use the AED, render first aid, administer Narcan to overdose victims, take people to the county jail, to psych hospitals. So we are in close contact with people, and that does put them at daily risk. And we are so appreciative of all the support that has been given to us by the community. I again, just thank everybody for that. It means a lot. And our courts are open, which makes me happy because we can cite violators and send summonses and get warrants for arrest and put people in jail. So we are fully open, and we're willing and eager to put you in jail if you come out here and break the law. So one of the things that we will not be doing this year is National Night Out. So we're not going to have any formal activities. We're probably just going to ask everybody on Tuesday, August the 4th, turn on your porch light and send these criminals a reminder. They have to beware when they come out here. So we'll have more on that. And in the meantime, follow us on our Facebook page, and we will have periodic updates. Any questions?
Okay. Thank you very much, Chief. At this time, can we turn to the mayor's report and Mayor Allen? And I would ask if you're speaking, if you could take your mask off so they can,
hear
the
you.
court stenographer.
Okay. Wow. First, I want to welcome everyone back. It seems like it's been months and months since we've been here. It's been 3, but welcome back to everyone, and especially the viewers on BP TV. I also want to thank Lawrence and his staff. I mean, it's been incredible what they've all done over the last 3 months. I mean, we put out swift reach messages. Lawrence makes sure he fills them in to tell everybody what's going on. So you did a terrific job. We still have a way to go, unfortunately, but you've done a terrific job. Okay, and since we do have a way to go, we still need to wear our mask out, still social distance. The county numbers were down today, which is good for the first time in a week, so we have to still keep after it. The building, the municipal building is still open. There's a lot of not a lot, but there is activity. You can come here for permits, for dye tests, whatever you need. There are boxes for drop-offs. You can do things online, but the building is open for your use. Tomorrow, the farmers market will be open again. And every Tuesday until the end of September, 3 to 7, the VIP parking lot. The county has different guidelines, so it may look a little bit different this time, but it is open, and as long as things keep going in the right direction, it'll continue to be open. What won't be open is Route 88 and Clifton Road, starting this Saturday, and that should go for a week. And the people that use that area know that when the first bridge was put in, it was amazing how they built that bridge in 1 week. So now they're going to do the other bridge, and by the end of this month, it'll just be a brand new section down there. And the last thing I have was we have trolley beautification boxes. I don't know if you've seen them along the trolley line. And these are done by volunteers. Mayor Morton started it many years ago. And I just wanted to give a shout out for the people that have already done it for this year. They've put a lot of work into it. So if you're ever going on East Library or West Library Road or Brightwood, take a look. And this year, the people that have volunteered to do one of the boxes is Mr. Chongaway, Artist Memory Care, the Blackhawk Family Relief Fund, Lisa and Jim Jenkins, a new one, Bethel Craft Company, the Democratic Committee, Bethel Park Lions Club, the Upper St. Clair Bethel Park Rotary Breakfast Club, and of course our favorite is Aaron. I forgot her last name.
Carter.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Aaron. Aaron Carter and Emily, Girl Scout Troop 26521. They do a terrific job. Their box is on Brightwood Road and Sarah Street. Take a look at it. We do appreciate everything they do for us. So that's my report.
Thank you very much, Mayor. At this time, could we turn to the municipal manager's report and Mr. Christian? Mr. Christian.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. It has been many months since we've been up here, and first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for coming out here. It is difficult in the new age of social distance to run these council meetings, but I think the team here at Bethel Park does an amazing job, and we're so proud of them. What I like to do with the manager report is highlight individuals. So, in my quarter century in the Army, we had something called the Hail and Farewell. So when an organization wanted to bring new people on board, you would hail them, and then when good people left, you would farewell them. So we always want to start with the good first, and then we end with some of the sad notes. So first and foremost, I'd like to bring up two new members of the team. If you can, Cassidy and Drew, if you could come on up, please. So the nice part about this one, we'll get all separate 6 feet, that I will go ahead and turn it over to them, let them talk about themselves. But again, these two individuals are going to be incredible value members of the team, and we're so lucky to have them on board. Cassidy is our new Human Resources Director. She brings a wealth of experience to this, and she's going to bring so much depth and knowledge. It's going to be amazing. And Drew does the same thing. He's coming on board as our project manager, and we have absolutely dumped a really big one on his lap first and foremost. But he's running with scissors, and he's taking that he's taking that challenge on. So I'll leave it off with Cassidy.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. My name is Cassidy Tenney. I am from Bellevue. I currently live there with my husband, Jeremy, and our bright orange cat, Kevin. I'm excited to join the team here, as Lauren said, as the new HR director. First and foremost, Lawrence and I will be focusing on compliance, efficiencies, talent acquisition, ensuring that we're bringing on, the best and the brightest qualified individuals to work hard for our residents. From there, we'll work on everything from benefits to just kind of employee engagement. You might see us a little bit more within the community as well. So again, really excited to join the team and open to meeting anyone who'd like to stop by and say hello and see our new fresh faces. So thanks very much.
Hello, I'm Drew Dowdell. I came on about a month ago as the project manager. I'm going to be working to streamline all projects across the municipality, but I'm going to heavily focus on the IT aspect, making the IT in Bethel Park more resilient, ready for emergencies, but also a lot more efficient. We're going to streamline processes and go from there. I live in Forest Hills. I've been there for about 17 years and live with my partner for about 15 years. I am a big gearhead. I have a vintage Oldsmobile that I have driven all over the northeast of the United States, so sometimes you'll see a vintage Olds sitting out in the municipal parking lot.
Thank you so much for both of you. Welcome aboard. We didn't have this noise problem until you guys
Started, just so you know.
And so comes the what we always say, that the sad part of the evening. What we have, those are coming on board. Now we have those that are leaving. So if I could ask Joe Valillo to come on up. I purposely did not tell you this is what I was going to do specifically, and he was wondering, why am I going to be the only director here in person tonight? And now you know the rest of the story. So Joe has been here for almost 8 years now, since November 2012, I believe. So he's brought a a lot of depth, a lot of knowledge to the municipality. He's handled projects for almost for the last 8 years. Municipal budget, I mean, the budget over $50 million on an annual basis. He's got a team of 4 that he handles and leads very well, so fantastic. He's just had so many impacts to the municipality, and we want to thank you in person about all the accomplishments and all that you've done for the residents of Bethel Park. It has been an amazing ride, but Joe has accepted a position of a chief financial officer, which is really the pinnacle for if you're a finance individual, that's where you want to go. So he's moving on to the private sector. So we wish him well wishes and job well done, and we want to thank you so much. So that's all I have, sir.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. At this time, I'd like to turn to the approval of the minutes and Mr. McLean.
First item is the approval of the minutes of the regular council meeting of June 8th, 2020. I move that we approve the minutes from the regular council meeting on Monday, June 8th, 2020.
Second.
There's been a motion by Mr. McLean and second by Ms. Gibbons that we approve the minutes from the regular council meeting of Monday, June 8th, 2020. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Sensi. Mr. Sensi.
He said yes. Yes.
Mr. Council Magno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. At this time, I'd like to turn to Mr. McLean for the public hearing minutes.
Yes, this is approval of the public hearing on June 22nd, 2020. I move that we approve the minutes from the public hearing on Monday, June 22nd, 2020.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McLean and second by Ms. Gibbons that we approve the minutes from the public hearing on Monday, June 22nd, 2020. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Abstain.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 with one abstention. At this time, could we turn to the bills, approval of the bills and payrolls, and Mr. McLean?
Yeah, Mr. Mowry, just in keeping with the practice of this council to explain abstentions, I abstained because I was not present at the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. McLean.
Bills and payrolls, bill list number 071320. I move that we approve the bills and payrolls for the municipality per bill list 071320 for $1,531,893.33.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McLean and second by Ms. Gibbons that we approve the bills and payrolls for the municipality per bill list number 071320 for $1,531,893.33. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. At this time, could we turn to the resident comment section? For non-agenda items, we have one person, Mr. Workmeister. If you could come up to the microphone and state your name and address, and we do have a 3-minute limit.
Yep, Ron Workmeister, 4750 Robert Drive. First, I want to thank and congratulate everybody here for being able to have a first open meeting in a long time, so that was great. I came here to see about an item that I thought might be on the agenda. I heard through some rumor about something, and I don't see it on here, so hopefully it's not because I'm putting it down as a non-agenda item. But it was related to some kind of lawsuit that we had going on, personnel and that. It sounded like it was substantial, but I don't know enough details, and I don't see it on here. So if it's not, then maybe will it be on the agenda that I need to come to another meeting, or, or was it, did I miss it?
We did add it to the agenda, and there's something on the table in the back. It outlines all the items they're going to be discussing tonight.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
We have 4 comments from the residents via email.
First comment is from Paul McKenzie, and it states, "Good afternoon. We are run over by deer on Ridgeway Drive. Could you please help us with this? 2 of my older neighbors had Lyme disease last year. Thank you." Next comment came from resident Nathan Chafin. In the phone message about this meeting, it said that social distancing would be encouraged. Why is it not required? Does this council not think that's a wise step to take to keep the community safe? Signed, Nathan Chafin. Third comment and fourth comment are both from the same individual, Pat Kazermick, and he would like to bring this up to the council meeting tonight. And it states, and he sent this to the state senator, Senator Representative, please help us in Bethel Park to get our peace and quiet back. I've been in close contact with Police Chief Tim O'Connor and sent an email to Governor Wolf. Ever since the bill was passed to approve fireworks to be legally purchased and set off in Pennsylvania, our lives in Bethel Park have been seriously affected. Days, but mostly nights, have been interrupted at all hours up until 12:05 a.m. with loud bangs and fireworks displays that scare us and cause many neighbors to be alarmed and frightened. I watched over 4 of my closest elderly neighbors. They all count on me for handling problems for them. 3 are in their 90s. They have medical issues with their hearts and PTSD. Some of the loudest bangs you can actually feel in your home. This bill was passed along with other amendments. This was to bring revenue in Pennsylvania, change this law. There are numerous repetitive neighbors who blast these fireworks off almost daily. My police department has given out warnings. I want these people fined. None of these homes are 150 feet away from a structure. They have no regard for their neighbors. They are not abiding by the other restrictions on firework displays. My husband has dementia and really sets him off with these loud blasts. My dog and my family dogs that have pets have seizures from being so frightened. I'm tired of repeatedly medicating my dogs. Also, I'm tired of taking my dog to an emergency 24-hour center to get IV sedatives and paying large vet bills. I need to know how to get this law changed now. How do I start a petition, or what else can I do? Chief O'Connor has been very sympathetic and helpful, but the policemen can only do so much. They have much more urgent emergencies to attend to. My next step is to contact the news agencies. They've been airing residents' concern on this matter. Signed, Patricia Kamerzek, Florida Avenue.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to, Mr. Harrison.
I'd like to just comment that Mr. McKenzie represents an area that is almost as, the people there have been there almost as long as I've been on council. What I'm saying is that every year they get a year older, just like we do. So there's a lot of elderly people who have lived there for decades. I'm just saying, it's a very stable neighborhood. So, and they've had problems with extraneous animals like deer and that type of thing, raccoon. And so I just wanted to mention that we understand it's a problem. I don't know just what we can do about it, but we won't forget it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. At this time, I'd like to turn to General Policy and Finance and Mr. McLean, and we have no residents signed up to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mowry. First item under General Policy and Finance is the collective bargaining agreement with the police officers. I move that we extend the existing collective bargaining agreement between the municipality of Bethel Park and police officers through December 31st, 2025.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McLean and second by Ms. Gibbons that we extend the existing collective bargaining agreement between the municipality of Bethel Park and the police officers of Bethel Park through December 31st, 2025. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Mr. McLean.
Next item on the agenda is approval of a mutual release and settlement agreement with Judith Miller. I move that we approve a mutual release and settlement agreement with Judith Miller.
Second?
There's a motion by Mr. McLean and second by Mr. O'Brien that we approve a mutual release and settlement agreement with Judith Miller. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Abstain.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 with one abstention. Mr. McLean.
There are no more agenda items under General Policy and Finance,
Thank you, Mr. McLean.
but I do have one additional item.
Mr. McLean.
Just to let folks know, you may or may not remember, but back in December, we announced a small, pleasant Christmas present because we had done a bond refinancing, and it resulted in savings of about $200,000 as a result of that. Well, I'm reminded, or this makes me think of the fact that my wife regularly watches Hallmark Christmas movies in July. And we have a little bit of a Christmas present in July ourselves. With the continued low interest rates, we've been able to refinance another set of bonds, and we should be able to close on that this week, and the savings will be in excess of $600,000. So, Merry Christmas. That's all I have, Mr. Maurer.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Are there any additional items?
Mr. Morris.
Mr. Harrison.
Consistent with what Mr. McLean had to say with his abstention, I intended to speak to the agenda item on Ms. Miller, but I was advised by counsel that I could be subject to legal action, so that's why I abstained. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Any other comments? Hearing none, can we turn to health, safety, and welfare? And Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Mowry. One item tonight on the health, safety, and welfare, a purchase of portable radio equipment. I move that we approve the purchase of portable radio equipment for the police department for the amount of $41,107.50 for information submitted by Chief of Police at the June 22nd, 2020 Council Committee meeting.
Second.
There's been a motion by Mr. O'Brien and second by Ms. Gibbons that we approve the purchase of portable radio equipment for the police department for the amount of $41,107.50 per information submitted by the Chief of Police at the June 22nd, 2020 Council Committee meeting. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Mr. O'Brien.
There are no other items under health, safety, and welfare. Just a little bit of an observation. In the Veterans Memorial, when you're coming to the library, notice that the two flags that are off the road, the second one's in, are the flags that were flown from the United States in the first pandemic. And the other flags are our current flag is flown in this pandemic. So I just wanted to just point that out. So thank you, Mr. Mowry. There are no other items.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Are there any additional items? Mr. Consolmagno.
I just wanted to acknowledge our great staff at the library, Christine and company. I didn't want it to go unnoticed, and maybe in her report it might have, but Bethel Park is the only library open for in-person services in the South Hills. There are 12 libraries in the South Hills, so that's outstanding. I want to acknowledge them. Also the board, since I'm the liaison between the council and the library board of the
the excellent job that they do in maintaining the library and also the financial status that, under these conditions, they still remain open.
Thank you, Mr. Consul Magna. Are there any additional items? Hearing none, can we turn to planning and zoning and Ms. Gibbons?
Application number 2019-0707, Capital Telecom, conditional use, 5412 Enterprise Boulevard, property, lot and block number 567-K-12, Capital Telecom Holdings, LLC, and Pittsburgh SMSA Limited, partnership, applicant, current zoning M, manufacturing and light industrial. Ward 1. I move that we approve application number 2019-0707 for Capital Telecom to construct a communications tower in Beth Industrial Park.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Gibbons and second by Mr. O'Brien that we approve application number 2019-0707 for Capital Telecom to construct a communications tower in the industrial park. Is there any discussion on this item? I guess I'll just say a few words. This has been a very sensitive topic for a lot of people over the last several months. We have held 2 public hearings with the pandemic. The applicant has been willing to work with us to spread out to go outside the normal traditional limits because we weren't able to get together. I would say I'll comment a little bit maybe from a personal perspective or observation of the last meeting, and then get into kind of one of the reasons why I'm going to vote the way I'm going to vote. I guess at the most recent meeting, and how the process works is we hire an expert that goes in and evaluates, because we don't have anybody on staff that's a telecommunications expert. So we consult with a company that is paid for by the applicant to go out and find out if they're meeting our ordinance and if they're doing everything properly. I guess I was a little disappointed. We had 2 public hearings, and in second public hearing, there was a lot of facts that were brought up or potential deficiencies in what the application was. And the applicant's representative seemed to spend more time challenging the gentleman who actually did the study versus what the meat of the study was, what the concerns were. So we really didn't get any of our questions answered as far as the deficiency goes in the application. Now on to kind of where I'm kind of going with this. When I went today to look on the internet and found, and you can find anything there by the way, cell towers in the area, and I was a little bit surprised. Within a 2-mile area, the location where they're looking to place it, there is 6 registered cell towers or communications towers within that 2-mile area, which was very surprising. And just to put things in perspective, this tower is going to go in the middle of the industrial park. The electrical towers on Logan Road, average between 80 and I think 92 feet. The proposed tower they're talking about building is going to be 140 feet. So that's significantly higher than everything in that area. The other thing that was interesting we learned is the fall zone. If that tower is to collapse, which they say that it won't, or it may collapse on itself, I don't know. But in theory, you have a 140-foot radius around the base of that tower that people could be injured. There could be a major consequence if that happened. My concerns with the 3 or 4 business that fall within that area, and let me refer to that as maybe the danger zone, where if there is some type of catastrophic event, it could be devastating to the area. One of the questions that was asked by Dr. Campbell, who's not here tonight, but he's a ham radio operator, what about maybe putting 2 smaller towers in, or utilizing a couple different locations that are pre-existing? That could we get a better communications? Could we pick up? Because understanding, if this tower was to go in, we're still going to have dead spots. This is not going to 100% resolve the problem that we have in that general vicinity. It's going to help, I'm sure, but it's not going to resolve. So if we had a tower 60 feet maybe, or 50 feet, that maybe fit in a little bit to the area, and maybe there was 2 of them, or they can do some co-locations, you'll cover a bigger geographic area. I'm sure the cost would be a little bit more, but it's not as obtrusive to the people that live in the area. In the response we got, this was the application that was presented. My last comment's going to be, I did bring this up at the meeting. I find it interesting when I looked at the applicant's map, and this is some of the documentation we received from them, and it shows where there's bad spots today, and it shows how it's going to improve with the tower. I get that. Makes sense. But yet when I go to the Verizon website, if I was a consumer, and I use Verizon, at least I used to, but when you look at their website, it shows no problems, no issues in that whole vicinity. If you look in the middle, I put the location of the pole, I put that in the Verizon website, and this is the map that came up. So they're not showing any. So I asked a question at the public hearing to one of their consultants or one of their engineers, why would this map be different than what you turned in? I don't understand. And the answer I got to the question, well, this was done by kind of the marketing people. So where do you believe what map is right and what map is wrong? This is the millions of people look at this when they go to buy a cell phone. So I'm a little concerned that, are they being disingenuous with some of the information that's provided? But having said all that, I'm concerned for a lot of reasons. I'm not sure they met the obligations of the ordinance, and that's why I will not be supporting this motion tonight. Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Sensi.
No.
Mr. Council Magno.
No.
Ms. Gibbons.
No.
Mr. Hannon.
No.
Mr. Harrison.
No.
Mr. McLean.
Abstain.
Mr. Mowry.
No.
Mr. O'Brien.
No.
Motion fails 0-7 to 1 abstention.
Mr. Mowry,
Mr. McLean.
just to explain my abstention, I was not present at the June 22nd public hearing where the applicant appeared, and I had also missed an earlier meeting and therefore thought that I should abstain from the vote.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
McLean. Ms. Gibbons.
Yes, I have an additional motion that I would like to add. I move that we approve the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and decision denying the application for conditional use approval filed by Capital Telecom Holdings.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Gibbons and a delayed second by Mr. O'Brien that we approve the finding of fact, conclusions of law, and decisions denying the application for conditional use approval filed by Capital Telecoms Holding. What this is a summary. It's, I believe, 42 pages of the deficiency we found. So we have to kind of document the reasons why we're denying it. So because we turned it down tonight, we are now going to adopt the findings, the fact that will go along with the denial process if the applicant chooses to take this to court. Any other discussion? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Council Magno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Abstain for same reasons noted on the record.
Mr. Mowry.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to 1 abstention. Ms. Gibbons.
Willow Terrace security reduction. I move that we approve the security reduction for the Willow Terrace development in the amount of $26,848.25 per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated July 7th, 2020.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Gibbons and seconded by Mr. O'Brien that we approve the security reduction for Willow Terrace development in the amount of $26,848.25 per the Director of Engineering's memorandum dated July 7th, 2020. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Harrison.
Is there still security money associated with this development?
I don't know the answer to that Mr. Harrison, I'll have to get back with you. I don't know the total amount still on.
I don't quote me, but on the form we got, I believe there's a small amount still left out there. This is just a reduction of one of the phases.
I'll just remind you that from the floor, the question was asked one time to, when we made a reduction, we indicate whether that's the total amount or some residual. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Hannan,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Mowry,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Ms. Gibbons.
There are no additional items.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbons. Are there any additional items? Hearing none, can we turn to Public Works and Maintenance and Mr. Consolmagno?
Yes, sir. Municipal building ground floor ceiling lights renovations. I move that we accept the low bid of $169,950 from M.A. Dunn Construction Company for the municipality building ground floor ceiling light project in accordance with the Public Works Director's memorandum dated July 10th, 2020.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Consolmagno and second by Ms. Gibbons that we accept a low bid of $169,950 from M.A. Dunn Construction Company for the municipal building ground floor ceiling light project in accordance with the Public Works Director's memorandum dated July 10th, 2020. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno,
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Hannan,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Mowry,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Consolmagno.
HVAC replacement for Brightwood Fire Station. I move that we accept the low bid of $252,900 from East West Manufacturing Company for the replacement and additions to the existing HVAC units at the Brightwood Fire Station in accordance with the Public Works Director's memorandum dated July 10th, 2020.
Second?
There's a motion by Mr. Consolmagno and seconded by Mr. O'Brien that we accept the low bid of $252,900 from East West Manufacturing Company for the replacement in addition to the existing HVAC units at the Brightwood Fire Station in accordance with the Public Works Director's memorandum dated July 10, 2020. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Christian, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Consolmagno,
Yes.
Ms. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Hannan,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Mowry,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Consolmagno.
That is all.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Murray.
Mr. Harrison.
I'd just like to comment that it must be apparent to the casual observer that we have to work on our communication system here under these conditions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Any additional items? Is there a motion to adjourn, Mr. Hannan?
Move adjourned.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone.